or media. Blockchain news, crypto crews and interviews, keeping you tuned in to the ecosystem.
Hello and welcome to Core Radio. Good morning, people. It is Saturday morning. I hope everybody's full of turkey. And I don't know about your Thanksgiving, but man, I don't know. My turkey was a little dry. I was a little bit disappointed with the turkey, but the ham was really good. So we have a very fun-filled event today. We have Sigwo from Darcrus. Darcrus. It makes me hungry. I don't know why. And later on today, we're going to have Sasha at 5 o'clock, and we're going to have Rob Wilson from Incent at 7 p.m. So I have a long day today, and but everything is working beautifully. I have been testing all morning, and I'm ready to rock and roll. I got my caffeine, and later maybe I'll get drunk for the Incent show.
Yeah, you just had a late participant.
It's a lot more fun actually when I'm a little tipsy. So we got Sigwo on. What's up, Sigwo? Sigwo is a brother of mine. We've been in quite a few projects together.
Yeah, doing good. Glad to hear your voice again on the radio.
Yeah, man, we're doing pretty good. You know, I'm happy there's so much new technology this year. This year seems to have ramped up the whole crypto scene. You know, remember last year it was kind of dead all year. And then all of a sudden it picked up.
It was a kind of a downhill spiral last year. I think we had to alleviate some of the pump and dump stuff. We had to kind of go through our growing pains as an ecosystem. I think we did pretty well. We got through the dark period, and I think we're on the way up. I think a lot of the projects that are being started now have a lot of smart people behind them, and I think working together, we can do a lot of great things. Bring this technology forward, bring it to the people that need it, and educate the people that don't understand it right now. Not everybody understood how to use the internet 15 years ago, but you can't go a day without using the internet for almost any job. So it's we're at the cusp of a technological evolution, and I think it's exciting that me, you, and pretty much everybody that's listening to this show right now is on the cusp of that evolution. So be proud of yourselves that you've taken notice.
Yeah, and including the fact that people like me, people like you, we actually work in the industry. So
it's as long as you're paying attention, you're part of the industry.
I mean, we actually work with companies, doing this, so we could help implement it better. One day, I believe all these companies, Verizon, they're gonna wake up. They're gonna start using blockchain, and say bye to SQL databases, right?
Yeah, it's all how you present it. Like I said yesterday in a different show, if you walk into a place or a meeting or a demonstration to a regular business, and you try to you begin your presentation with how a blockchain works and why it's cool, you probably won't make the whole meeting, and they'll laugh at you when you leave. But you can go in.
Yeah, they look at you like you got 3 heads on your shoulder. I've tried it before. They're like, "What the hell is he talking about? This blockchain stuff?"
Yeah. So if you go in and you have to show them that there's an issue with the way everybody does business, the way everybody has their data replication set up, has their encryption storage, the holes that they have all over the industry, and how you can come in and help fix those issues with lower costs, lower overhead, easier policies, and better compliance. Because if you can't bring something value add to their business model, they don't really care how cool it is, or if JP Morgan's listening to you, or Ethereum's Turing complete and can fork all by itself. They don't really care. They just want to make sure that whatever you're trying to sell them, or the process you're trying to give them, is better than what they have in some form or fashion. I think that Darcrus can do that pretty easily.
Ah, that's right. Yes. So the name of this ICO, which is currently going on right now, is called Darcrus, Darcrus, and it is pretty innovative. It's comes from a place I believe that most people know. If you were a network admin, a sysadmin, anybody involved in that network operations field, you know this stuff, and you know the hardships behind it. Databases going down, tape backups, the information getting distorted, lost, and we definitely need better solutions these days. Centrally located solutions are probably going to be a thing of the past, especially with Darkris coming out. We have a lot of ICOs out there, people, and I want you to be careful. Be very, very careful. I had a couple approach me for a show. I had to deny it. I had to close them because they made no sense. And one of them, it looked like it made sense. It kind of looked like they were talking about frequencies and it sounded like they were talking about ham radios. So I went to JL777 and he told me straight. He's like, "This none of this makes any sense. It sounds like," and he's like the best person I know as far as looking into code and seeing if anything's valuable in there. So be careful out there. There's a lot of ICOs. I want to warn everybody that there's a lot of bullshit ICOs out there. You need to be careful. There's a lot of great ones. There's a lot of great projects going on. You got Darkris. That's a whole networking solution, and it's a really good one. It actually has a. If you're from it, you know that this is needed. Uh, we got good ones like Incent out there who are creating have already. They already have an incentivization program that mom and pop shops could use. For POS sales. We got MVP. I like that one too. It's a fantasy sports thing, but you know what? If the website gets big and people start using it, they don't know they're using crypto, which is the best part about it. It works behind the scenes. So if that gets popular, that's another niche that crypto is taking over, and I believe that niche by niche, we're gonna take over everything, but we got to do it little by little. Sigwo is doing the networking niche now, right? I know you've been in a lot of projects before. Uh, the UNOMP project, remember that one? I mean,
Yep.
Sigwo could build awesome multi-pools. I mean, like he made me a multi-pool once. It was so cool. I mean, you know what? I didn't even care about the whole profit side. I just had fun doing it. It was just like it's like mining. You know you're not making profit, but it's fun. It's fun to do. You still in that? You still working with that at all?
Uh,
The
so
UNOM
the
2.0?
multi-hashing needs to be rewritten in C, and as my fingers don't know C, we need to upgrade the multi-hashing to come up so it can run on all the new Node.js implementations. Because as you know, if you've looked at the code, it runs on 10, Node 0.10.xxx, whichever one you want to put on there. But when they upgraded Node.js to dot or 0.12.xxx, they rewrote how the Chrome V8 engine implements. There's a whole bunch of crap that goes on behind the scenes. Basically, how it reads that C file that helps compile all those algorithms for the Stratum is rewritten in a different fashion. They refactored it, and I
Right.
have not refactored that C file. But I did go back and update the package.json so it pulls the correct file or the correct version numbers through all of the node modules, so people can still use it with some light modification and everything. So it is there. It has always been. We've tried to document it as best as we can and answer questions when we can on how to operate and build those. But like any open source project, it's there for everybody to use, build on, and hopefully, if they improve it or add things to it, they do a pull request and submit that back up to the main repo so that people can take advantage of those technology. So. But
Nice,
no, I'm
nice.
not actively working on it right now. It's just it's there.
It's
I've
like a
kind of
toy, right?
it
But
it's there for people to use. I've kind of moved project focus when I had the idea to start doing Darcrus. I had like I'm SigWoNet and SigFarm next assets. So instead of leaving those hanging on the next platform, I want to bring all of those early people that believed in me and what I was doing and what I was trying to achieve, bring them up, bring them along, and give them the one-to-one swap for Darkers that they deserve. And to make that around the 5 million number, I'm burning some of my personal assets to Sig Farm that I purchased with my own money. So I want to make sure that
right.
everybody's got the fair shake, because I don't want to leave anybody behind. So we'll
Let's take
move
a
forward
step
with
back.
Darkers.
Let's take a step back for a second. So Sig Farm and SigWoNet, right? Those are the two NXT assets. So these are shares in a company, in two other ventures that Sigwo initialized maybe a year to 2 years ago. Great projects, and if you invested in it first, you got your money back. So for people out there that are listening, this is like having a piece of the company, like on Wall Street. You're buying stock. It's like a stock in the company, and we have a lot of normal non-crypto people that listen to this. So I want you guys to understand that he created a company, and he issued assets of the company through a vehicle called NXT, which is another type of blockchain. So now what he's doing is he's offering everybody a one-to-one swap to his latest venture, and he may take a hit on that, but he's willing to do it, because I got to say everything he's done has been amazing, and I've been following him for years. So Darcrus Sigwo is the latest one-to-one swap. So people who own SigWoNet and SigFarm could swap, take their assets that they had and get some Darcrus with it.
So there was never any companies. So let's get that straight. There were no companies. These were projects to where I did my crypto business. So people would come to me and say, "Hey, I need you to build me a multi-pool," or "Hey, I need you to build me a Raspberry Pi with my wallet on it, so we can distribute those for staking. To do staking with. SigWoNet was started to fund those things and to fund trading bot for Bittrex and Poloniex. So each month, whatever profit we would take in, that would be distributed back to the people that purchased those SigWoNet tokens. So that started in 2015 in June. So that went on pretty well, pretty good. I think everybody was happy with the way that all worked out. It continued until October. The end of October was the last reward payment for SigWoNet. In April of 2016, I started SigFarm, and that's where we all pooled together money, to purchase parts for GPU mining rigs, so we could mine Ethereum and any other profitable GPU coins. So the same setup, I created the token on NXT, did a short crowd sale. There was an open-ended crowd sale that we ended up selling just over 5 million tokens out of the 100 million. So there, I built a BTC for SigFarm swap site, so you could just purchase your own without having to buy NXT. Because that seemed to be some of the problem with how that structure is built, trying to do a unquote crowd fund on a platform that only accepts one currency, and the currency is not Bitcoin. If you accept Bitcoin, it's going to work pretty much, but NXT, however much I love it, it is not the main currency that people like for whatever reason.
Right.
So we continued on that, and then so now that we're here in November, the last SigFarm payment will go out in 4 days on the 30th, and then the SigWoNet and SigFarm will be swapped into Darcrus at the conclusion of the ICO. So if you have SigWoNet or SigFarm out there, or you buy it on the NXT asset exchange, because it's still for sale, the people that had bought it prior to me announcing Darcrus, they still have that. So they are more than welcome to sell it on NXT for whatever price they deem they wouldn't want to get out of it. But there are no more for sale. I burned the remaining SigWoNet that was in my SigWoNet account, and I burned the 5 million that were gifted to SigWoNet from SigFarm, and then I burned the 90 or 89 million whatever out of the SigFarm account. So there are no more there are no more issue account held SigWoNet or SigFarm. So everything that is now out is in the wild and is 100% able to be sold and bought on the NXT Asset Exchange until they're swapped in for Darcrus.
And just to throw this in there, NXT is kind of cheap right now, guys. So that's probably a really good way to get Darkis, right?
It's not so bad. If you look at what my funding goal is, which is 1,000 Bitcoin for Darkis to run forward in its current instantiation, I think the last time I saw it was 2 NXT for 1 SigFarm, so that puts it at under 2,000 Satoshis. And I think somebody did the math in one of the chats I was in, and if we raised the 1,000 Bitcoins and stop right there, the price per Darkis would be just over 2,000 Satoshi. So, it is what it is. And if we raise more, hopefully we'll raise, 1,500 or 2,000 Bitcoin for the project. The price will go up accordingly because it's a floating price ICO.
Cool. Let's get into Darkis. So now we know how it works. We know how to get some. We could go to your website, right? Darcrus, darcr.us, and we could buy some there with the bonus, limited time bonus, fellas. So always getting these ICOs on the bonus. I don't know about you, I always feel better getting a bonus. And it's 25% right now, right?
That's correct. We got 22 hours and 13 minutes left in the 25% bonus, and it drops to 15% bonus.
That's a big deal. If you do 500,000, you get 750,000. That's a big deal, fellas. So Darkis, let's get into the idea of Darkis. All right, I love it because I'm a networking type of guy. I'm also ITIL certified. I heard you were too, and V3 and all that silliness.
Oh yeah, that's great stuff. Woo. You can hear my enthusiasm.
I know. I am a green belt. So Darkis, I listened to Starkey yesterday. Starkey is a great guy. I reached out to him about a month ago, and we go back and forth. This is a small space in crypto. We all got to work together. So he does a great show, and I hope everybody works together. Because the mainstream is hard to conquer. We got to conquer it together. So this is going to be a blockchain that allows companies to secure their transactions, and I don't want to say the word ledgers, but any transaction that a company does is normally recorded on possibly a SQL server, right? Most of the time.
So the easiest way to think about it is not even mention the word blockchain at all, because Darkis itself does not have a blockchain. I'm not building blockchains. I'm using the blockchains that everybody else is building. So Waves, NXT, Stratus, those guys and gals are building the platform. So they're building the operating system. They're building the Microsoft Server 2012. They're building Ubuntu 1604, which is fantastic. And that's a great feat. It's a very large portion and a very important part of the ecosystem that we are all trying to build. So what I'm doing with Darkis is I'm coming in and saying, okay, there's already a protocol mechanism and a consensus validation tool in this particular platform. What I want to do is take your application business that you do customer service tracking, which is fantastic. You keep track of your customers, you keep track of what they buy, you keep track of if they owe you money, subscription data, all of those things that just get transacted into a regular SQL database, and then all of the inherent problems that go along with storing that data, securing the data, replicating the data, and then in the event of a disaster, recovering that data. I can help take care of some of those steps and reduce the, possibly 15 steps to maybe only 5 steps. So your operational expenses for having to secure that customer data gets smaller. The capital expense for having people and the licensing that goes along with all the software, those are things that I can help fix, or not fix, but maybe help bring them forward. So back to what it actually does, I want to replace applications with SQL databases to have Darcrus interfaces that have a back-end interface to the blockchain, whichever blockchain suits that company. Some companies may be just fine with a vanilla C++ Bitcoin fork implementation. It will do everything they need it to do. Some may need waves type speed, because I think I've read somewhere about waves that they are looking to or can already do upwards of like 10,000 transactions per second, because it's like super fast. So,
Right.
Eventually when we get to another part of the conversation, I'll kind of talk on why that's very important for one of the projects that Darcrus wants to achieve. So to wrap your head, to kind of bring that entire thought back and kind of package it, is Darcrus wants to take and modernize your SQL database applications into something that is recoverable, securable, and reliable, to the point to where your entire infrastructure for that application can be restored with a double click.
Right, because it's replicated all over the place. So it would be very simple to restore one node, because it's replicated
Correct. So
on all the nodes in the
it
company.
works. It's taking the premise of the protocol below it. So Bitcoin, when you submit a Bitcoin transaction, as soon as you submit that Bitcoin transaction, it is submitted to what is called the memory pool. So it is stamped with a transaction time. Now the confirmation time, we can get into why it takes so long to confirm, but the confirmation time is only for validating that the transaction is correct, which you can adjust that in any fork of Bitcoin you want. You can make, confirmations in transaction time, or in blocks, every 2 seconds. Whether or not that's
Right.
smart, that's a different conversation. But so sorry, the call.
Are you risking security for speed
You don't have to.
in any places?
Security, depending on what your application needs to do and who has access to write to your blockchain application, will depend on how secure you need it to be. And I can't tell you, Verizon may need it to have 100 confirmations, and IBM may need to have 2. It'll be defined in policy guidelines. It'll be defined in any business matters with a company when this is comes to fruition. When we're taking their requirements and building the service design package. When we say, hey, they've told us X, Y, and Z, and we start building that design package and say, hey, this is what we can do. This is how fast we can go. This is how many transactions or saves that need to happen in this amount of time. So how fast, how secure, how many is something we can pontificate on for days, but it'll really come down to who and what the business is and what they're trying to achieve.
Right. I like it. I don't know. I'm not sure if Verizon. I'm not really too. I'm still new in Verizon, but I worked for a company called AmerisourceBergen. It's a wholesale pharmaceutical company. You'll notice that all wholesale pharmaceutical companies are within the Fortune 30. So they're all top tier. They make the most money. Surprisingly, drugs make a lot of money. And every one of these companies, including the one I worked for, they have a whole building full of computers, and the whole building full of computers with hard drives that have 500 gigs and more on each one, not being utilized at all, because most of them were kind of like just nodes. They're just, they run the VM and that's it. Um, and it's a waste. It's a waste of resources. Where I'm thinking, if you could run a node on every single computer in the company, you would never have an issue losing any data, right? I mean, and the buildings are located in other areas of the world. This one company, they had different countries they were in. They were all over the United States. They had buildings all over the United States. I mean, that would be some amazing replication if they were able to utilize Darcrus,
Yeah.
right?
So yeah, I mean, so the level of installation and how localized that installation gets is, as again a company policy. Uh, they could say, hey, you know what? I want every single workstation to have an instance of Darkris. Their help desk application. So each help desk person has an installation of their ITSM, their information technology services manager. So those nodes all sync together, and then they will go back and sync. With I've got my air quotes up, a master node. And then depending on what level of security you need, you can have a node in Amazon AWS that and it's only one-way transaction. It only syncs inward, so it keeps track of all the blockchain or all the transactions in Darkris that's written to a blockchain. So then, if you have a localized disaster, there's always a replicated copy inside that AWS instance or at a local. If you look at the use case diagram where I've got the London, Tokyo, New York, and San Francisco. In the event Tokyo dies and gets an earthquake or whatever, and they've got total data loss, none of the other 3 locations around the world are affected because the only the data that they click save on is the data that everybody else has. So when they recover from their disaster, all they need to do is spin up a new server, double click the Darkris application that they have for their business, or many of them. They spin them all up, and they've got their data back. There is no long, lengthy process. Japan, maybe even in an offsite, if you're in Japan and their offsite is somewhere else on the island, well, if you have an earthquake, that other building could 100% be damaged. But for the most part, so we have aliens attacking us or whatever. London would be safe if Japan had an earthquake. So that data is still 100% usable, 100% safe. In London, New York, and San Francisco, have no data loss from any of their applications because that data is automatically replicated from Tokyo before that disaster was supposed to happen. So
Yeah, and with
yeah,
VPN technology, people could remote in and work like normal, even if that whole building goes down, because it's replicated in another building somewhere,
yeah, they just
or
they
AWS.
VPN or they have a web GUI that they go to that if it's a publicly accessible web GUI they can get to. I think and again it's company policy. Like for me, even the military, I would VPN in to the DoD network, and then I would get to wherever I needed to go on the interior network and continue business as usual.
Right.
But it's that
With a little
portion
RSA.
is kind of there, yeah.
All right, so let's get down to the brass tacks. If I were to implement Darkris into my, let's say I have a server room full of voice over IP servers and 3 ESXi hosts, right? I got the tape backup unit for my BM going on. I got about 5 racks full of servers of, let's make pretend I didn't P2V them yet. And I got all these servers. Which ones would Darkris help eliminate to save my company money?
So I'm not going to touch your VoIP server. I'm going to touch your ESXi host will still be there. All the bare metal that runs that cluster. Your SAN storage will not get any smaller. But I will get rid of your licensing for SQL. You won't have to license that anymore. Your backup tapes. And again, this is a company policy may say, you know what, I'm not getting rid of my backup tapes. I'm gonna back up. I'm gonna use tapes to back up your Darcrus blockchain. That you're writing
Okay.
to the application.
Right. Let me just jump
But
in there
it's
right for a second. Let me jump in for a second. Tapes cost thousands of dollars a month, people. The IBM unit, is normally rented from IBM directly, and that costs a lot of money to hold in the server room. So eliminating backups, then the time that it takes a person to back it up and hopefully test it on the restore, that takes a lot of money. Got to pay for somebody to do all that work. Uh, so I just want to say that real quick. Sorry to interrupt, bro. I just want to show them how much money they'd be saving. It's thousands of dollars.
and depending on who it is, I mean, the company may say, you know what, I'm not getting rid of any of my infrastructure, but what I will save is man hours, resource hours, planning and policy, and the ease of practicing our redundancy and our recovery procedures. Because, like we kind of led off with at the beginning, people could have really robust policies and have all the equipment in the world and back up every 15 seconds, but if nobody ever tries to restore those backups, you might as well not do it. But if restoring a backup of Darkis literally takes spinning a VM up and double clicking an application icon and watching it sync to all of the other connected nodes, it takes 30 minutes to see this happen and have the nodes sync up. So I mean that replication and backup procedure from a high level, C-level or director level position, just from that standpoint is very invaluable. To see that procedure, that policy get implemented and actually exercised. But yes, the backup tapes can go away because we no longer need backup tapes. The redundant, localized redundant SANs, unless you're in a high availability, environment where you need, if the SAN itself dies, you have to have that high availability redundancy. But like I keep kind of stressing, that is very much a company policy, company-based decision. But I think the real people that I'm going to help first, we all kind of dream that, oh, I'm going to walk into IBM and solve their problems. Well, that's not going to happen with anybody except for maybe Ethereum because they've got bajillions of dollars. But kind of like what I was talking to the Sturkey last night, mom and pop shops that have, everybody uses the internet, everybody has online presence, everybody has to try to keep track of their customers' data. And right now, mom and pop shops are doing it, but they're not doing it anywhere close to PCI compliance. They're not, well, it's payment credit card information, but they're not storing your data in any kind of secure fashion for the most part. There's some out there that do, but for the most part, none of them do. And for the most part, is if that mom and pop shop had a disaster and they lost all their data, they have zero recovery effort. They have no way to get any of that data on their customers back. So it's like they started business over again because they have nobody to reach to, and it'll set their business back. So, but by going in and consulting with smaller shops to get this out there, and the small business, the medium-sized business, to say, hey, we understand your IT staffs are not robust enough to have a specialized database guy, specialized backup guy, specialized tape retriever, and all of these things that it costs, these overhead costs to do all these redundant backups of backups of backups. Hey, instead of doing that, here's a better way to do it. And I think that's where a lot of this technology will bubble up from the bottom and start being realized by the medium to the larger corporations. So I think a little elbow grease, a lot of hard work, and a lot of showing them how it works. I think that's going to go a long way.
I think it's more of a simpler way, showing them a simpler way to do it. Also, I think simple is the key to getting us mainstream.
Yep, that's why I don't say anything about blockchains in any of them.
Right. So simple utility. For what you were saying just now, I worked for a company. I'm not going to say the name. It was like a cell phone beeper company, right? And I was a kid at that time, but this one store, they had one computer with everybody's social security numbers on it, and I was like, oh my god, like it's like a fortune in a hard drive right here. in a lot of companies run like that. They have one computer in the store. If they take backups, but they're just like a mom and pop shop. They don't know more. Like having a computer is high tech for them. So a solution like you're saying, where you could show them better. A lot of them, they do pay a little extra for the better operating system, maybe uh, what are the licenses, to make everything legal. Even though the one I was working for, they were okay with the hacked version I gave 'em. And yeah, if you is it would be even better if it was like an online solution where they don't have to install anything. They could just sign up and start using Darcrus right there online.
Yeah. So
Make their own account.
yep. In one of the diagrams, that's one of the actual use cases where you can, have this either A, built or B, subscribed. The subscription I'm not real keen on. That might come later, but I want to make sure that that it makes sense for that company to do a subscription type, infrastructure. But it depends. It's definitely a business proposition and a different decision for them to make.
You, as a network guy, I always had an issue with log files. I you know what happens when those things get full? Everything stops. You're wondering why everything stopped, right? And it's like, oh Jesus, the log files are full again. You know, that's if you don't have, if I had an automatic pruning type of a macro going on the server, so every once in a while it would prune it. But if that suddenly didn't work, people start wondering why everything's stopping. Then you got to increase the hard drive space just to get it to work for a little while longer, so that you can fix the issue, right? Any issues with logs on Darkis?
So that's kind of where we go back to the waves and their 10,000, or I think it's 10,000. It could be more transactions per second, because one of the projects I'm working on with a security company is how to write logs to a cryptographically verifiable system. And being in the industry, I know how fast and how slow some logs are being written. They can be overwhelming if something goes wrong, and depending on the verbosity of your error logs, they can overwhelm systems. So I want to make sure that it is a project I have in mind, to be able to do this system with logging, because you've heard of insider threats. They get to go in, log into systems. They do what they're going to do. They steal the data. They plant a Trojan or whatever, and when they back out, since they're an admin and they're an internal attacker, they can just clean up the logs as they go back, and it never happened, from anybody's standpoint. But if you're using a cryptographically verifiable chain in an application to write your logs to, as soon as they try to delete that, that instance that they authenticated to that server at that time, or change the file permissions, or installed something in a system file, that is logged. And if they try to delete it, it brings. So automatically you'll have a system built to show you when a modification of the chain happens. So, and there's no way they can refute what happened. It'll show them logging in, them changing the file, and nobody else can do it, because it'll be verified against the blockchain, and B, against their authentication mechanism, which is another project, is the Trezor hardware piece, where you can do multi-factor authentication, what they call is universal second authentication, or universal second factor authentication. So you basically use private keys from a chain and verify via something you have, which would be the hardware token, something which would be a PIN or a password, and to get into the whatever system you were going to try to get into. So all of those things would be recorded, and be able to be verified and not be able to be refuted. After last night's meeting, interview, I had somebody PM me on Slack and was like, "This would have really helped me with the situation I just got done with," and it was an internal hack. It was an internal, attacker, and he's like, he had to set up multiple honeypots inside his own network just to catch the guy. So there was a lot of man hours or woman hours, but we'll call them resource hours to be agnostic, to putting out fires that shouldn't be burning in the first place. So those are kind of quick overviews on
Right.
those two projects that are coming down the pipe that are coming with DAP Sheet. So DAP Sheet is the generic term for the replacement of your SQL Server and front end application you use. So
Very
those
nice.
will
Very
be,
nice.
yeah, those will be
And what?
available open source uh, for the applicate for whatever platform. It depends on which platform we go with first, depending on our RCO, how good it goes, and how many developers I can hire.
All right. All right. I heard you yesterday on Starkis show. If anybody, you guys should definitely watch that show. It was really, really good. Uh, he definitely opens up a lot on that one. Going back to logs, yeah, the logs. Most companies only keep 2 days of logs, and they back them up, and then they delete them, right? And we know how good backups are. And even if they didn't delete their tracks, and then a lot of companies don't even bother trying to catch the person. They just try to fill the hole, and they 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 probably fired the system admin for not thinking of it. Because these big companies they don't want to spend money. It's probably why they make so much money. Uh, I like the tools, Sigo. I think it's gonna take some time for people to understand how this is gonna work. So you're probably gonna have to put out some good videos on how it works to get IT administrators and bigger companies to start understanding how it works, right?
Yeah. So videos are great tools after the product's been introduced. So I've already started talking with companies about Darcrus and DAP sheets and the logging system and how we can do multi-factor authentication. So being in the industry I am and the position that I am, I get to talk to a lot of vendors, uh, a lot of your Fortune 10 companies, and how they sell things, and the products they are selling, and how Darkers can help them sell a better product, and replace what they're trying to sell, DoD or in their private sector businesses. You know, being in the military for almost 17 years, I've seen the level of crap that is given to us by the Northrop Grummons, by the Lockheed Martins, by the General Dynamics of the world, because they can, and because the DoD has accepted it. So I see a lot of um, improvements to the software we get from them for our warfighters and the way they store data and the way it's replicated and stored and backed up. I see, just from the enterprise standpoint, on how we store data about ourselves. Um, so being in those, like I said, being in those positions, I've already got very good contacts that are deep into uh, the sales force of larger companies, to where if anybody knows anything about how things are sold in the real world, you get the big boys to sell your stuff, and you're good to go. So I have the
Right.
big boys on my side. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of exciting things coming with Darkris, DAP Sheets, Project Jupiter, and Project Mercury. There's a lot of big things coming.
So let's get into like ERP solutions, right? Um, a lot. So it'll be able to handle different types of transactions. Now, this is what I was interested in. What you were saying yesterday. I don't mind me if I'm being selfish here. Uh, so there's different types of transactions that go on in a company, right? And data that's recorded. A lot of the data is very personal, confidential, very highly confidential. It should not get out, right? And then you have transactions that are okay, like maybe customer transactions. The date and time that he bought it, he made an order, and maybe the date and time that the order was shipped. that's open, right? So you kind of want the customers to see that. Is how do you differentiate and how do you conceal, the stuff that in a company that's not supposed to get out, using your system?
So we have, I kind of lump them into three groups. You've got your private. So think of private as your employees' data that no customer needs to know about any of your employees, their phone number, their cell phone number, what their pay scale is. They don't need to know any of that thing. So that would be an example of a private chain. And then so basically a private chain would be, I would, we would take the underlying protocol, say Ethereum. And build a Darker stat sheet on top of it for that business to store all their employee data. And with our designers, we would go in and whatever system, if they had a system, we would replicate it so where, on Friday, Stephen would be using this, this employee data system. Monday comes and it looks the same to Stephen, but on the back end, it's totally different for the IT administrators. So that's that level of training to where you train the IT administrators at the locations you upgrade these to these DAP sheets. So that's kind of a private. Private public would be more along the lines of, a good example that makes sense in my head is like an online gambling site or a dice site, to where privately you need to have an account to write to that blockchain. To place bets, you need an account so it can be tracked. But the public aspect is the bets that are placed are publicly viewable, so you can for the provably fair aspect. If you go back and review some of the dice sites and how they diagram the provably fairness, they send you the hash before you place the bet. Basically, they give you the answer before you place it. You place a bet with the hash, and then it hashes it again and sends you back all the information and says, hey, here's the answer before you place your bet, so you know that it was fair. We didn't change the answer once you place the bet. All those things can be recorded and transacted in a blockchain instead of a MySQL database on the back end, and you just kind of have to hope, that they are not gaming the API system. And a public is, like kind of like how Factum does, recording deeds or whatever they're doing, land deeds or, information about land, the geographical aspects of, your land starts here, stops here, and it's this large, and the last 15 owners are these people. That'd be a public.
Okay.
Verifiable.
I understand. So what's going on here is that every level of security will be using a separate chain, right?
Yeah. Even inside the same company, if we go in and we say, hey, you know what, you're a candidate to replace 10 applications, there may be 10 different chains inside that one company that all talk to each other
Right.
at a certain point. Because, data is data. Oh, I told somebody said, oh, well, you're trying to disrupt the storage industry. I said, no, I'm not disrupting any storage. I can't magically take a 1 terabyte database and make it smaller unless we do compression, which is not kind of the initial goal of Darcrus. But what I can do is take that 1 terabyte of data and make sure that when you recover it, it's 1 terabyte of data and not 500 gigs, because we've got everything under control and replicated properly. So, I can't magically make any database smaller at the onset. Now that's in the strategic planning. Once this gets off the ground and I start having meetings internally of what our strategic plan will go, 3 to 5 years, compression and storage space saving will be one of the things we talk about. But
Advances.
I'm not one of those guys that's going to promise you to solve world hunger and give you a breadcrumb. I want to be very smart in how we go forward and how I give the information about Darkis, because I don't want to set any of those expectations. And then, come June of next year and delivered, according to the roadmap, what I'm supposed to deliver. But, somebody says, oh, well, I heard you were going to do this or that. And, I just want to make sure that I always set the expectation and then so we can go forward and make sure we meet everybody's expectations or exceed those expectations.
Right. You already have an innovative idea, a very innovative product. I mean, it's even starting out, at the smallest level would bring you higher up in the ranks. I mean, look at Microsoft Server. I mean, how much has it changed, since 2003? I mean, it's disgusting. So, your innovation is just starting out, in its low point will be the highest point, for possibly other ERP systems. I'm not sure if you know about those type of SAP and JD Edwards, right?
Yep.
A lot of companies use those ERP solutions. Do you see yourself, possibly working because SAP is highly modifiable, right? I mean, that's one of the good things about it. It's never ending expand. You could expand it forever. Uh, you could add a lot of things to it, unlike JD Edwards, right?
Yeah, I mean, so SAP is pretty highly touted, in places like the financial world and other places. And it's more of a storage solution, and I just want to be able to make sure that wherever the data needs to be stored will be stored.
It's also it's kind of like it's like Windows, right? It's like what do you call it? I'm forgetting the word here. It's like Windows, Mac, OS X, right? It's the desktop management type of thing. So what I'm getting at here is SAP has modules, right? And you got the financial module, right? And you got in the accounting module. In each module, uh, there's these transactions that you kind of want to put on Darkis. uh, Being able to work with them. So if you like create like your own plugin for SAP, it might make it very simple for a lot of people to get involved. And a lot of these big companies like AmerisourceBergen, uh, they use this ERP solution called SAP for tracking all their stuff, and but at the end of the day, like we said earlier, these are all still on SQL servers, and they're still backing up to normal archaic means.
Yeah, see, I'm not sure SAP is what I'm aiming for. I have, yeah.
Okay. Look into it when you get a chance. I mean, I've worked with it. You could create like a plugin, where I believe you were saying it yesterday on Starkey's show, where if there's a online GUI, right? You're talking about the UIs, and any transaction that's clicked on the UI, it gets recorded onto the chain, right?
Correct.
Permanently.
So like SAP would be, it,
It's just another
if
UI.
yeah. So I mean, if a company said, hey, you know what, we like SAP and we want you to write us a plugin for SAP, okay, cool. But that wouldn't be something that I would most likely just do because SAP is big.
Right.
You know,
There's a
I
lot of
mean,
solutions, third-party solutions just for SAP. That's what I'm saying. You could be another, third-party solution for it. And there's tons of them, dude. Tons of them. So tell me about the UI integration. Somebody wanted to integrate a UI, to work with their shop. Do you offer that also?
so the UI comes with the Darker stat sheet. It's not just a front end that hooks. I don't want to. I don't. I'm not looking to build new GUI front ends for old SQL technology. And looking back, on the examples, something was there before SQL. Something was there before that. Punch cards were around, 50 years ago. And then, SQL has been, it was a technological leap when somebody said, hey, you know what, we can store data like this. And, we've not really changed the way a database works, for the most part. We've gotten better, we've gotten faster, but the way that we replicate and store that data has really not, it's kind of lagging. So I look at the Darcrus technology and the DapSheet technology as maybe the next evolution or the beginnings of the next evolution of how we can store, protect, and replicate that data. And hopefully, if this, when this gets out and gets around to these businesses, recovery will no longer be a bad word or a word they use, because to recover something, you must have lost something. And Darcrus, you never lost any data, because as soon as you save the data, it's replicated across their entire node infrastructure. You'll have to recover the underlying platform itself, the server. If there's a destruction of the server, or somebody hacks in and takes over your data, and you say, hey, you know what, instead of trying to fix the server, it's easier for us now to unplug it, wipe it, reinstall everything, node on it, and do the post-mortem from the logging system as to how they got in. And even if they stole the database,
Right.
it doesn't even matter, because the encryption has protected the database. So it's worthless information. And I was talking to somebody, and they brought up that BTCE, that online exchange, their database was stolen. I don't know how long ago it's been. It's been probably a couple years. But since they
Right.
did their due diligence, they'd used encryption. They went the extra mile that a lot of places don't go, and encrypted their database. So
Right.
that, if you go the
Using
extra mile
blockchain tech.
and protect it, they'll you will protect that data from hackers. You can't stop everything from being attacked, and it's not a matter of if you get hacked. It's a matter of when you get hacked, and then you need to make sure as a business, as a person even, what you do and how you react to when you get hacked. How I highly advise everyone to have a plan for when you get hacked.
Right.
How deep can they go with your one email address? How deep can they go with 5 of your email addresses? How many passwords are the same across your personal infrastructure? Because they get in one little thing, it's people on the other end that are the customer service representatives. You got to think of, they want to get you off the phone as fast as possible, because
Right.
most of the time all they hear is a bunch of complaining. So social engineering is the easiest, fastest way to get hacked,
Yes.
or reset a password, or change a phone number, or change your address. So you gotta, I've always planned for when I get hacked,
Right. You're always gonna get that
and
one
how I can react to it.
person in the. Always gonna get that one person in the company that clicks on that email link, right? You can't stop that stuff from happening. It's you could try your best with filters but that stuff happens. It's the problem is between the computer and the chair. Uh, you know, there's a lot of people that work from home. I've noticed, when I personally, when I work, I noticed, as a net admin, I noticed a lot of people getting viruses on computers and then logging into VPN, right? Working from home. I was like, dude, what are you doing? It's a big problem. Yeah, the social engineering, that's the easiest way to hack a company. Yes, for sure. Oh, what I wanted to get back to though, you were saying, you're right. A lot of the companies over years, all they could do is get faster hard drives, right? Uh, maybe set up raids, to work quicker, and so your technology doesn't rely on the speed of a hard drive, right?
I mean, you're still going to need responsiveness. I mean, I'm not going to try to sit here and pretend that 7,200 RPM spinning hard disk is going to be just as good as an SSD, because it's not. Because you still want the responsiveness for your application, which is the base of why you upgrade your hardware. But what I was kind of saying is the technology for the database and the databases themselves, the technology of how those work has come forward. But and of course, our hardware has gotten better and faster, and cheaper, and it's easier now with virtualization technology with VMware, to buy commodity hardware, plop it in a server room. You don't care if it's HP, Dell, SunSpark. You don't care what the hardware is. It could be unlabeled stuff from eBay, because you care about the speed feeds. You want the most RAM, the best CPUs, and a good hybrid or full blown SSD RAID, you know, to lay your hypervisors on. Whether you're a Hyper-V shop, which I hope you're not, or a VMware shop,
Right.
those are the things that Darcrus is not aiming to fix. We're not trying to fix server speed. We're not trying to fix, whatever OS you guys have out there. We're gonna obviously come in and say, hey, you can save licensing fees by using Ubuntu, or because Ubuntu is what I use the most of. So I say that, but Linux in general. You don't have to buy the SQL database licensing, the maintenance cost. You don't, there's not 5 tiers of SQL to buy, or 2 different versions of SQL or Microsoft Server, or buying a new license when they decide to upgrade. You just make sure that all of your modules are okay, and you do a sudo apt get upgrade. Just upgrade and upgrade your server.
Right. Most reasons why they use a specific brand name is for warranty purposes. When would you offer some type of not warranty, but if something goes wrong, you guys you'd be available to help them out to fix it out when things go wrong. Some type of
100%.
warranty
Yeah,
like that.
100%. So some of the things that I've kind of discussed and talked about with some people in the industry is, when you go to a business, and it'd be a larger business, or like I kind of alluded to, is some of the larger sales forces that I know. You take and when you have a company buy a DAP sheet, you basically send one of your SMEs to that company to help install it and be a support, almost like a support maintenance contract, but for a person. So that one person could possibly support 5 or 6 different businesses that need that on support, that mandatory, hey, on call support, and there be different licensing, or not licensing, but different support contracts where you can do 5x8, 24x7, 365,
Right.
response time SLAs. There's a litany of ways you can do a maintenance contract, and then that's dependent on demand, and it depends on what the business needs. Where I work, I would need it. I have to buy 24x7, 365 support maintenance contracts. I can't buy 8x5 because we're not an 8x5 shop. There's no point in only having an 8x5 support contract for stuff that needs to be working all the time.
Right, and that would kind of go still to the profit of Darkis, right? The whole venture. So those contracts is another way of profiting. I know it is for larger companies like IBM.
Yeah, so there's a buyback program that we will go to the major exchange and do a buyback program. And when I buy those Darkris will be burned to increase the value of Darkris tokens by eliminating the supply little by little.
All right. I think you have a really great product here, man. You're gonna do great. I mean, I've known you for a long time, and when you put your head to something, you do it. You're kind of like Sasha in a way, where you want to when you want to get something done, you get it done. So I've always been really impressed with your work.
I definitely appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm vouching for you, man. I'm telling you, I've seen you work. You do a great job. I've seen other people rely on you and you coming through. So, this isn't just a fly by night developer like most of these coins guys. This is a great ICO, and you should definitely get involved, not just for profit, but you should get involved for the niche. The fact that this is one of the niches that will be taken over, and Sigo is heading the way in it. There's not that many. I haven't heard of any other solution like this come out so far. So this is get your foot in the door early right now. It's very important that we support projects like this. It's once again, stop thinking about profit. If I got $30, if I got $50, I throw it in a project I like. I've thrown $30 in MVP, and I've thrown a few bucks, and I'm not a rich guy, but I do what I can. And if everybody does what they can, just throw a little bit, we could make crypto big. You know what? Bitcoin is what at we got about 3 to 5 million people using it right now, right? I mean, that's nothing. That's nothing. And what's the market cap on Bitcoin right now? Like 14 billion, I think, right?
Yeah, somewhere close to that. I don't have any of those windows up, but it's probably anywhere between 12 and 14 billion dollars, depending on which crisis is happening in the Bitcoin world. Drama for the big blockers and the core guys. They like to goat rope this a little bit too much.
So, I mean, that's nothing. $14 billion is nothing. If you look at the hundreds of trillions that fiat is worth, right? Just bring it to like a market cap of $9 trillion, right? Say the market cap flies up all of a sudden. People start realizing that remittances could be used through Bitcoin technology. The underlying technology. Forget the value. Look at the importance of the protocol, the underlying technology. Like TCP/IP was back in the day, and everybody laughed at it, right? I mean, this technology could go very far. If we see trillions of dollars, every Bitcoin will probably be somewhere between 20 to 50,000 a coin, right? I mean, it could be something very huge, and all of us, and we're a small crowd of people. I mean, we all know each other. It's ridiculous. I've seen Starkey on for so long, and I've known Sigwo for so long, and most of us know each other from different projects. That's how small it is. Uh, we know who to trust. We know we know who not to trust, right? So, uh, getting on the ground floor right now, guys. This is a niche that is gonna go far, especially for big company. All you need is that one big guy, right? Siggo, just one big guy. Then all the other ones start looking at it, and then they want to use it. Say Amerisource Bergen picks you up, my old company, right? I mean, McKesson, they always want to be the latest in technology. They always want to be on the cutting edge. So they say, right, all the time. I mean, they're gonna follow suit, and they're gonna look at it, and they're gonna try to implement it also.
Yep, there's big promise in all these projects. So before we sign off, I just want to give a little bit of information. The ICO is now it's been going on for a few days. Right now, you got your 25% bonus, and then it will drop to 15% for the second week, then down to 5%, and then the last day, which is the 11th of December, starts the 10th at 1800 or 6 p.m. GMT. And it will run until the 11th at 17:59 GMT or 5:59 GMT, and that last day is 0% bonus. So get your participation in, get those bonuses, and like you've probably read some other places, the minimum for this project is to raise 1,000 Bitcoin. So let's that's why I want to make sure we got that in before we sign off.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, you need to start somewhere. With everybody. This is the reason also to help out in these niches. We got to give him a leg to stand on, people. If he's got the brains, I'm telling you, Sigo's got the brains. He just needs the legs to get this moving. And I normally don't push, but I'm pushing for Sigwo. I'm telling you that Sigwo is an honorable man, and you should definitely look into Darcrus. What's the website again?
It is https:// darcr.us. And that's for the
DAR.
home site, and then darcr.us. The ICO site is https:// ico.darcr.us.
All right, and if just so happens, because I spread it on my LinkedIn, and I looked at your LinkedIn, man. That's very impressive. Uh, if it just so happens somebody wants to contact you, what's the best way to reach you? Is there an email?
So if they're wanting general information for Darcrus, the email for that would be info@Darcrus, and that's DARCR.us. If they want to get a hold of me, Steven@Darcrus would be the easiest way to get in touch with me. I'm always on Twitter. You can tweet at us at Darcrus. I'm always in Slack. If you want to join our Slack, it's https inviteme.darcr.us. You'll get an automatic invite to the Slack channel. And let's see, up on my desktop, I'm in the Stratus Slack, the Jumbuck Slack, and the Wave Slack. So anywhere in there, I'm Sigwo everywhere on the internet because nobody was, Sigwo is an actual shortened version for my title. I'm a signal warrant officer in the Army, so I took SIG and WO for warrant officer and smushed together and say I'm Sigwo. So it's pretty unique. Don't know anybody else that's a Sigwo. Unless you're in the Navy, then you'll know SIGO is a signal intelligence officer, but definitely not me. I stay on the land. But yeah, and then at Twitter, for my personal, the non-Darkers is at Sigwo. So I mean, basically, if you can find a Sigwo, that's going to be me.
All right. Hey, Siglo, that's like Lutz, Angel Lutz. My name's Angelo, the little Angelo, Angel Lutz. It's kind of an Italian thing. It's pretty silly. But I haven't seen any other Lutz. So.
Nope, no other Lutz.
Yeah. So hey, thanks for coming on, man. I'm really rooting for you. I might do some shopping on your ICO tonight. Your project really touches me a little bit because I've been there before, and I wish I had these solutions, especially no backups.
Definitely, and I appreciate you having me on. Definitely, it's an honor to be on the core radio, live and in color, man. It's a great honor. I appreciate the time.
It'll be available for replay tomorrow, everybody. So and edit it up tonight. And when I say edit, I'm not taking anything out. That all I'm doing is normalizing the volume, and if there's little spaces in between when we're talking, I have something that actually pulls out those spaces. So those little air gaps.
Yep. And as soon as I see that link, just tweet it at me, and I'll put it up on TVE, the Viral Exchange, which is a fantastic platform. If you have a project out, get on TVE, go sign up. Even if you don't have it, get those rewards, get those bounties that we have up for Darcrus. We have the signature campaign going on Bitcoin Talk. We have a bunch of tweets and retweets and follows on the viralexchange.com. You can sign up for to get extra Darcrus tokens. And of course, want to see everybody doing their after Black Friday shopping on the ICO site. Take advantage of those bonuses. So with that said, Lutz, appreciate it, brother.
Hey, brother.
I'm gonna hop off here and eat some lunch.
All right, enjoy, and say hi to the family.
Will
enjoy
do.
your day, bro.
You as well. See y'all later.
All
Thanks.
Right.
Out here.
All right, and this is Lutz signing out. I hope that all of you come back in about an hour and a half. We got Sasha from Waves coming on, and he is going to tell us about the full nodes. Now, I personally, I really, I installed a full node last night just to get my beak wet in it, and it was pretty elaborate, but it was simple at the end. I mean, I ran into a few speed bumps. We're going to question him about full nodes, and we're going to see where that goes. All right, guys, enjoy your day. I'm going to go refreshen up and eat just like Siglo is. And have a great day. I'll talk to you later.